Glory America, bonjour, hi Canada. I'm Hugh Hewitt on Wednesday. I am here to say my prayers are with you folks between Bradenton and Sarasota, maybe from Tampa Bay all the way down to Naples. I know that Milton is bearing down on you, going to hit overnight. It's a Category 5 right now. It may lessen a little bit, but that's not going to make a bit of difference to you. And so to my audience in Sarasota and Tampa Bay listening on The Answer 93.7. 9:30 a.m. for Sarasota, and it's 8:60 a.m. for Tampa Bay, and all the way over on the other side of Florida in Orlando on 950 The Answer, 94.9 FM. I'm thinking about you. This audience will step up to help you after the storm hits. If you're in the car, just be patient with the people in front of you. They're worried too. I want to begin this morning by saying if you had any doubt in your mind about voting for Donald Trump, Kamala Harris ought to have removed it yesterday in one exchange on The View, of all places, with Sonny Hostin. Sonny Hostin asked Kamala Harris, I want to get this exactly right, if anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years? Again, that's the question. If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years? And the vice president responded. This is Kamala Harris. There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact. Not a thing comes to mind. Now, I have said a few times, sometimes I think she hadn't got a thought in her head. Well, she stated yesterday she doesn't have a thought in her head. Not a thing. May I count some ways for you? Well, Afghanistan might have been handled better. Maybe Joe Biden shouldn't have announced we were leaving by September 11th. Of course, he changed that and then said we were leaving by August 31st. Perhaps we ought not to have evacuated Bagram, or at least not to have evacuated Bagram without telling them we were leaving. Maybe we ought not to have left U.S. citizens in Afghanistan. Maybe we have not to have left our green card holders, all the SIV eligible people that we left behind to be murdered by the Taliban. Maybe we shouldn't have had all those Marines unprotected at Abbey Gate. Maybe we should have sent more troops. That's just Afghanistan. Maybe we shouldn't have left billions of dollars of military equipment for the Taliban to resell. Maybe not. How about Ukraine? Maybe Joe Biden ought not to have said, Kamala Harris could have said, I don't think I would have said a minor incursion wouldn't bother me. I might have speeded up weapons. I might have not restrained the use of those weapons. I might have supported Ukraine at the beginning when the Russians were coming in instead of telling Zelensky to scamper. And when Zelensky said, I want a ride, I want ammunition, not a ride, I would have given him more ammunition. Perhaps I would have been on better terms with Israel with regards to intelligence. Maybe I would have supported them better after 10/7. Joe Biden made a great initial visit, but then, of course, we withheld some armaments. I told them not to go into Rafah. I wish I hadn't. I said I studied the maps. I wish I hadn't said that. I wish we would have supported our ally, Israel, so that they would not have been attacked twice by Iran. I wish we wouldn't have told them to take the win. I wish we wouldn't have said don't so many times. I wish we'd have done the border a little bit different. 10 to 15 million illegal entries in the United States is bothersome. 3.2 million illegal entries in 2023 alone. Maybe I should have done something different there. Maybe we should have finished the wall. On China, maybe we should have shot down the spy balloon earlier. Maybe we shouldn't have gone to Alaska and let Blinken and Sullivan get chewed up by their tiger diplomats in the first month of the administration. Maybe we shouldn't have sent cabinet member after cabinet member to kowtow to Xi Jinping. Maybe we ought to have said more about Taiwan and then not changed our mind, and Joe Biden was a little bit incoherent on that 3 times. Maybe we ought to stand by the Philippines. Maybe we ought to have denounced the Uyghur genocide. Maybe we ought to have stood with Jimmy Lai and all of Hong Kong. On spending, the deficit just came out this morning, $1.8 trillion in fiscal year 2024. Maybe that was a little bit high. We've increased the national debt $8 trillion. I think I probably would have done something different on the $8 trillion. I don't think we probably should have signed the Inflation Reduction Act or the first spending splurge of 2021 and 2022, which sent inflation in the grocery store up 25%. I wish we hadn't done that. I wish we had a different Department of Justice. We should not have put crazy Jack Smith in charge of prosecuting Donald Trump. We probably shouldn't have done the search warrant on a former president. Maybe Merrick Garland, I would not have someone that old and infirm running the DOJ. I I don't think I would have invited, I don't think Tony Blinken's my guy. Jake Sullivan's not my guy. Lloyd Austin's not my guy. You can't blame me for them. You're certainly not going to pin KJP on me, are you? There are so many things she could have said. She could have been vague. I think I would have been a little forward-leaning with Israel. Or I think I would have pushed aid more quickly to Ukraine. Or I think I would have recommended a more youthful, energetic, and on top of it, Attorney General than Merrick Garland. I think I would have told the president it's not good to prosecute former presidents and to weaponize them. I think I would have noticed very early on that this Chinese spy balloon was not really in our best interest to allow to go unmolested across the country. I think she could have told Sonny Hostin. I think that I would not have canceled the Keystone Pipeline. I think I should have gone to the border more often. I think I ought to have been more vocal in my demands for detention centers so that we have not released more than 10 million people with pieces of paper telling them to come in. I don't think I would have wanted to lose tens of thousands of children. I think I should have done more to stop fentanyl from pouring into this country and killing hundreds of thousands of people. There are so many different ways that Kamala Harris could have answered that question. Again, the question was, there is, if anything, Sonny Hostin's given her a wide swing at the plate. She's given her 3 pitches. If anything, would you have done something different than President Biden during the past 4 years? Anything at all. She didn't say the second anything at all. The vice president didn't pause. She said, there is not a thing that comes to mind. And I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact. Not a thing. I just ran through a few of these things. They also lost case after case at the Supreme Court. Maybe they ought not to have tried to extend the vaccine mandate. The Supreme Court blew them away on that. Maybe they ought not to have tried to forgive student loans because the Supreme Court has rebuked them on that twice. Twice. Maybe they ought not to have stood against religious liberty repeatedly in the Supreme Court because they've been brushed aside there. They've lost 9-0, some cases at the Supreme Court. 9-0, not 6-3, 9-0. There are so many things. She allegedly has a campaign. This is just me sitting down in the studio 30 minutes before going on the air telling you, I've been thinking all night long, I couldn't believe she said that. And if you're going to vote for her after she says, I'm all for what we did. Do you know there's one poll that doesn't lie? Real Clear Politics does an aggregation. Is the country headed in the right direction or is the country headed in the wrong direction? Today, the Real Clear Politics average of the right direction, wrong direction of many polls is that only 28.4% of Americans think we are headed in the right direction and 61.3% of Americans think we are headed in the wrong direction. And Kamala Harris told those 61% pound sand. I wouldn't do a thing differently. You didn't like anything? You didn't like the fact people were falling off of airplanes at Karzai International Airport? You didn't like the fact that I told everyone I'd studied the map and Israel shouldn't go into Rafah? You don't like the fact that Israel's lost 350 soldiers in Gaza because we were staring them every step of the way? You don't like weapons cut off? Get used to it, pal, because I'm going to do everything Biden did and more. My appointees are going to be the same or worse. My spending's going $8 trillion in debt. You haven't seen anything yet once I get going. Kamala Harris, absolutely a deer in the headlight. It's The View. It's The View. She also blew 60 Minutes. She blew Howard Stern. She blew everything she did in her big media rollout. If you vote for her, you have to wonder, do you have a brain? Are you the scarecrow? Because you're voting for an empty vessel who can't think of one thing. I ask you, is there one thing you would have done differently in the past 4 years, one thing you would have done differently in the past 4 years. I got a long list, but you don't get to second guess your life. You ought to be able to reflect upon your decisions, sort the good ones from the bad ones, and get a pile of both, because we're human beings. We are not perfect, far from it. Kamala Harris, not one thing different from Joe Biden. And that means you should vote for Donald Trump, preferably today. I'll be right back, America. Stand by.